The moment it happened, the entire football world seemed to freeze. Not because the Browns won a game, and not because a rookie threw a touchdown. This was different. This was the kind of moment that makes even casual fans stop scrolling, lean forward, and ask, wait, did Cleveland really just do that? For nearly 30 years, the Browns lived with a shadow hovering over the franchise, an invisible weight tied to one position that has broken spirits, derailed seasons, and turned countless next great hopes into footnotes. And then, out of nowhere, a rookie quarterback stepped onto the field and shattered that weight like it was nothing. No warning, no slow build, no dramatic Hollywood setup. One afternoon, one unexpected starter, and suddenly the impossible became real. It wasn't the score that stunned people, it wasn't even the throw that lit up the stadium. What sent shockwaves through the league was the feeling, an immediate, unmistakable shift that Cleveland hadn't experienced in decades. A sudden sense that for the first time in a long time, something in this franchise's DNA had changed. And that shift, it started the moment Shedeur Sanders cooked that first snap. For years, Cleveland fans joked about the rookie quarterback curse like it was some kind of urban legend, something everyone laughed about but secretly feared was real. Every time a fresh face stepped under center, hope flickered for a moment before collapsing under the weight of history. 17 straight rookie debuts, 17 straight losses. It didn't matter if the quarterback was a first-round Golden Boy, a late-round project, or a veteran forced into the role. The ending was always the same. Frustration, disappointment, and another tally added to a streak that felt more like a warning than a statistic. This wasn't just bad luck, it became part of Cleveland's identity. Fans learned not to get attached. Analysts stopped trying to predict success. Even players, whether they admitted it or not, felt the pressure the second they walked into the locker room. The streak turned into a ghost that followed every young quarterback the Browns touched, a quiet reminder that something always went wrong here. And yet, year after year, the franchise acted like this wasn't a dark cloud hanging over them, like it wasn't shaping the way the entire league viewed their quarterback position. Everyone knew the curse existed, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. Not until a rookie finally stepped in and decided he wasn't living under anyone's shadow. Shedeur Sanders wasn't supposed to be the one walking out of that tunnel with the offense behind him. The plan was simple. Let him sit, learn the system, and ease into the NFL without the weight of Cleveland's history crushing his shoulders. Coaches wanted time, fans expected patience. Even insiders reported that the front office viewed him as a long-term project rather than an immediate answer. But football doesn't care about plans. The moment the starting quarterback went down, everything shifted. Suddenly, the fifth-round rookie who had spent the preseason turning heads and forcing quiet conversations behind closed doors was the only option left. Reports claimed the coaching staff had mixed feelings about pushing him into the spotlight this early, while others inside the building believed he might already be the most composed passer on the roster. And in the span of a week, the kid who was supposed to wait became the one carrying the franchise into a game weighted with pressure, history, and stakes he shouldn't have had to face yet. But instead of flinching, he walked onto that field with the calm of someone who'd been preparing for this moment long before Cleveland ever knew his name. From the very first snap, something about Shedeur Sanders felt off in the best way possible. Rookie quarterbacks usually step onto the field with eyes that betray nerves, shoulders tight, movements rushed, as if the moment is too big to fully process. But Shedeur didn't show any of that. He stood behind the line with a calm that didn't match the situation, scanning the defense like someone who'd already lived this moment 100 times in his head. Even the broadcast caught it.
His body language didn't scream, fifth-round pick. It didn't even whisper rookie. It felt like watching a player who knew exactly where he belonged. Then came the play that shifted the atmosphere from curiosity to shock. The Browns lined up, the pocket formed, and instead of checking down or playing it safe, like most young quarterbacks are coached to do, Shedeur looked deep. Not a glance, not a quick read. A confident, deliberate stare straight down the field, like he already saw something the defense hadn't realized they'd given up. And when he uncorked the throw to Isaiah Bond, the reaction was immediate. Fans in the stadium stood up before the ball even hit the air, and analysts online started firing off reactions in real time. The ball cut through the field with a level of touch and precision that doesn't come from nerves, it comes from instinct. That one throw did more than move the chains. It changed the entire conversation. Up to that moment, there were still questions about whether he was ready, whether Cleveland pushed him into action too soon. But as the replay ran and the crowd roared, a different kind of buzz started forming. People began saying the quiet part out loud, that maybe this kid wasn't just filling in. Maybe he was something Cleveland hadn't had in a long time. Some insiders even suggested later that Shedeur had been the sharpest quarterback in camp, but nobody wanted to start a controversy by saying it publicly. After that deep shot, though, the truth didn't need whispering anymore. Everyone watching could feel the shift. The Browns weren't just surviving with the rookie. They suddenly had a reason to believe something new was happening. If the deep shot hinted that Shedeur Sanders was different, the play that came next removed all doubt. It was supposed to be simple, one of those routine screens that offenses called to settle a young quarterback, calm the rush, and buy a little breathing room. Nothing flashy, nothing risky. But the second the ball left Shedeur's hand, it became obvious this wasn't going to be just another safe little dump-off. The timing was too sharp, the sell was too convincing, and the throw hit Dylan Sampson in stride, with a rhythm that felt almost rehearsed. In a moment where most rookies would rush the release or telegraph the intent, Shedeur disguised it perfectly. He froze the defense for a split second, just long enough for Sampson to slip behind the traffic and burst into open space. And when he ended up, for 66 yards, a touchdown that came not from luck or broken tackles, but from flawless execution on the quarterback's part. You could see the reaction immediately. The sideline erupted, teammates swarming Shedeur like they already knew he was playing beyond his years. Even the commentators, who had spent most of the week questioning whether Cleveland was rushing him into the spotlight, suddenly shifted their tone. This wasn't a rookie feeling his way through the offense. This was someone who understood the structure, trusted his timing, and had the confidence to run a play that demands precision. The beauty of that touchdown was how much it revealed about him without saying a word. A screen might look simple, but every coach knows it's one of the trickiest plays for a quarterback to execute cleanly. The timing has to be perfect, the footwork has to sell the drop, the throw has to be soft enough for the back to handle, but firm enough to beat the pursuit. And Shedeur mailed every part of it like someone who'd been doing it for a decade. That's when the conversation changed. Before this moment, the question was whether he could manage a game and avoid sinking under the pressure. After this play, the talk shifted to something entirely different. Whether Cleveland had accidentally stumbled onto a quarterback who was far more prepared than anyone expected. It was the kind of touchdown that makes analysts pause, replay the clip, and reconsider their entire evaluation. And for Browns fans watching at home, it was the first time in years they saw a rookie make a play that didn't just help the team, it made them wonder what else he might be capable of. Every great debut has a moment where everything threatens to fall apart. And for Shedeur Sanders, that moment came with the interception. It wasn't a disaster, and it wasn't reckless. It was the kind of mistake that almost every rookie makes when they're trying to read an NFL defense in real time. But the crowd's reaction said it all. After decades of watching young quarterbacks crumble under pressure, fans held their breath. This was the exact point in a Browns debut where the story usually took a familiar, painful turn. One mistake would spiral into two, confidence would evaporate, and the promising start would dissolve into another chapter of Cleveland's never-ending quarterback frustration. Everyone waited to see if this rookie would follow the same script. But Shedeur didn't flinch. He didn't shrink. He didn't rush to the sideline with wide eyes or a look of panic that so many young passers wear after their first big mistake. Instead, he jogged off the field with the same steady pace he had before the turnover. Head up, eyes focused. You could almost see the gears turning, processing what happened, filing it away,
mentally resetting without letting the moment consume him. And when he returned for the next series, his body language didn't show frustration or fear. It showed composure, the kind of composure you can't coach, can't fake, and can't expect from someone playing his first real NFL snaps. What happened on that next drive revealed exactly who he is. Rather than playing scared or tightening every throw, he trusted the offense and kept attacking. His passes were decisive, his reads were clean, and he didn't shy away from throwing into tight windows. It was as if the interception sharpened him instead of rattling him. Some analysts later suggested that growing up under the constant spotlight of his father's fame prepared him for moments like this, the pressure, the noise, the scrutiny. Maybe that's true, maybe not. But whatever the reason, the response told a story no stat line could. Shedeur wasn't just talented. He was mentally built for the job. That drive didn't need a touchdown to make its point. All it needed was poise. All it needed was a rookie refusing to follow the patterns of the past. Cleveland has seen quarterbacks lose themselves after a mistake. But this time, for the first time in a long time, they watched one shake it off like it meant nothing. And for a franchise that's lived through decades of collapse at this position, that resilience was more powerful than the touchdown earlier in the game. It was the moment people realized he wasn't just breaking a streak, he was breaking an entire mindset. If Shedeur Sanders brought the spark, Cleveland's defense brought the fire that turned the entire game into a controlled explosion. From the opening drive, the Browns' defense played like a unit that had something personal to prove. Every snap felt violent, calculated, and relentless. By the time the game was over, the stat sheet showed 10 sacks. 10. That's the kind of defensive performance you usually only see in highlight reels or postseason blowouts, not in a rookie quarterback's debut. And as the Raiders' offense collapsed under the pressure, Shedeur suddenly found himself playing a completely different kind of football. The defense wasn't just supporting him, they were removing every ounce of unnecessary weight from his shoulders. Myles Garrett, in particular, looked like he was performing a one-man demolition project. 3 sacks, endless pressure, and a presence that forced the Raiders to abandon any sense of comfort. Every time the opposing quarterback dropped back, it looked like someone had pressed a panic button. And that's exactly what a young quarterback like Shedeur needed. Instead of being asked to trade blows in a shootout or carry the team through a high-scoring duel, he had room to breathe.
The defense controlled the tempo, dictated field position, and made sure every offensive series started with leverage instead of desperation. This kind of defensive dominance does more than help a rookie, it transforms the entire tone of his first start. When the defense plays like that, Shedeur didn't have to be perfect. He didn't have to chase points or force risky throws. All he needed to do was run the offense, stay composed, and strike when the opportunity appeared. And that's exactly what he did. For years, Browns quarterbacks stepped onto the field knowing they had to save the team. But this time, the message was different. The defense was telling him, "We've got this. Just play your game." That shift is bigger than people realize. Young quarterbacks often get thrown into chaotic situations where they're expected to fix everything immediately, and that pressure can break them before they ever get a chance to grow. But Shedeur's debut wasn't built on panic, it was built on balance. With the defense playing like a swarm of angry wasps, the offensive burden became manageable, almost comfortable. It allowed him to trust the playbook, trust the timing, and trust himself. And in a franchise that has seen one rookie after another crumble under impossible expectations, having a defense this dominant didn't just help Shedeur succeed, it gave him the freedom to show exactly who he could become. By the time the final whistle blew, it wasn't just Cleveland talking about Shedeur Sanders, it was everyone. Sports networks cleared airtime, podcasts dropped emergency episodes, social media timelines flooded with highlights and hot takes. This wasn't normal coverage for a fifth-round rookie. It wasn't even normal coverage for a Browns win. What happened after that game was something different. A media frenzy that only happens when a player taps into something bigger than stats. A narrative, a moment, a movement. And Shedeur had just walked into that spotlight with the ease of someone who knew it was coming. The numbers told part of the story. His preseason debut against Carolina had already broken viewership records, pulling in over 2.2 million viewers on NFL Network, the most-watched preseason game in nearly a decade. That's unheard of for a rookie not taken in the first round. And while the official ratings for his regular season start hadn't been fully released, the buzz was unmistakable. Analysts who hadn't mentioned the Browns in years were suddenly opening their shows with clips of Shedeur. Highlights from the game were trending across platforms. Even non-sports media started covering it, not because Cleveland won a game, but because something was happening in Cleveland that people wanted to see unfold. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room, his last name. The Sanders name doesn't just open doors, it commands attention. Deion Primetime Sanders redefined what it meant to be a two-sport athlete, a showman, a brand. Now his son was stepping into the NFL and, in his very first start, delivering a moment that felt like the beginning of a new era. The comparison started immediately. Was Shedeur built for the spotlight like his dad? Could he handle the pressure of not just the position, but the brand that came with it? And most importantly, was he the real deal or just the latest viral story waiting to fade? What made the media frenzy more than hype was what it meant for Cleveland's future. This wasn't just about one win. This was about a franchise that's been starved for relevance, finally having a face that can fill stadiums, sell jerseys, and make national audiences care. The business impact alone is massive. Jersey sales skyrocketed, merch moved, ticket demand spiked. People who hadn't watched a Browns game in years were suddenly tuning in not because they were fans, but because they wanted to see what this young kid with the Sanders name was doing.
Didn't want to miss what Shedeur would do next. In an NFL driven by narrative and star power, that kind of pull is rare and incredibly valuable. But it also brings a new kind of pressure, because now every performance will be dissected. Every mistake will trend. Every win or loss will shape the narrative that's rapidly building around him. The media doesn't just spotlight stars. It follows them, feeds on them, and when expectations rise, it can turn just as fast. That's the world Shedeur walks into now. He's not just a rookie quarterback. He's a storyline. He's a brand. He's a symbol of something Cleveland hasn't had in decades. Hope that feels real. And the way he handles that spotlight won't just affect him, it will shape the next chapter of the entire Browns franchise. For nearly 30 years, Cleveland lived inside a story that always ended the same way. Promising beginnings, fading into frustration, new quarterbacks stepping into the spotlight only to be swallowed by the weight of everything that came before them. But on this one afternoon, something felt different. Not because the Browns won a game, and not because a rookie put up eye-catching numbers, it was the feeling that washed over the stadium, the energy that spread across the fan base, the quiet shift in how people talked about this team. For the first time in a generation, the Browns didn't just break a streak, they broke a mindset. Shedeur Sanders didn't fix the franchise in a single afternoon, and he didn't erase decades of heartbreak. But he did something Cleveland desperately needed. He opened the door to a future that finally feels possible. His poise, his confidence, his ability to rise in moments where others collapsed, those qualities don't guarantee success, but they change the foundation the team stands on. They give fans permission to hope again without feeling foolish for it. Now the real test begins. Defenses will adjust, pressure will grow, expectations will stretch bigger than anything a rookie should have to carry, but if this debut was any indication, Shedeur isn't running from that weight. He's stepping straight into it, and that alone is something Cleveland hasn't seen in a very long time. Maybe this is just the beginning of a long, unpredictable journey. Maybe there will be setbacks,
ups, challenges, and moments where everything feels uncertain again. But maybe, just maybe, this was the spark that flips the franchise narrative for good. The moment the Browns stopped chasing the future and finally started building it. Because for the first time in decades, Cleveland doesn't just have a quarterback with potential. They have a quarterback who makes the entire city believe the story might finally change.